it comes to Robert Ransom, he is one of these commanders that sometimes gets overshadowed by his division commander. John Walker's division is going to play a very important role in the Maryland campaign, and Ransom is part of that. What's interesting about Ransom is that his brigade of North Carolinians will have that name for the entirety of the war, because Robert Ransom is replaced when he gets bumped up by his older brother, Matt Ransom, who becomes the brigade commander, and so that brigade of North Carolina troops will retain that name for the entirety of the war. So he is a West Point cadet. He is going to graduate about a decade before the Civil War. He spends a lot of time in the cavalry. He will go to the cavalry school in Carlisle. He will also spend a lot of time in the West, including doing some policing actions during Bleeding Kansas. He does decide to go south at the beginning of the war. He is in charge of a company of Confederate cavalry out of North Carolina for the first several months of the war, and then in late '61 is made the colonel of the 1st North Carolina Cavalry. So during the Maryland campaign, Robert Ransom is commanding his brigade, and he is going to be one of these hard-charging, combative Confederate officers that we see. He's under a very combative division commander with John Walker. Walker wants his commanders to be aggressive. They will be holding the end of the Confederate line down near Burnside Bridge in the morning hours of the battle until around 9 a.m., at which point things are going crazy up in the West Woods area, the northern part of the battlefield, and the entire division is pulled out and is raced up through Sharpsburg into or actually just behind West Woods, and then attacks into that woodlot. They actually do not arrive in time to drive out Sedgwick's division. They show up immediately thereafter. And one of the interesting aspects about it is that as these Mississippi troops and other troops are driving the remains of Sedgwick's division northward from the West Woods, one of Ransom's North Carolina regiments, I believe it's the 24th, gets its dander up and goes with them. And so that regiment is gone for most of the fighting. The rest of Robert Ransom's brigade falls into a position behind the stone ledge or stone wall on the edge of what is today Philadelphia Brigade Park. They will punish the 2nd Massachusetts and 13th New Jersey infantries as they're attempting to basically help withdraw Sedgwick's troops from that predicament. And then they will be involved with counterattacking the Federal push into the West Woods around the area of Dunkirk Church, which occurs with the division of George Greene. At Antietam, he's a solid performance. Walker's division is going to, if not drive back Sedgwick's division, they would help stabilize the Confederate position in the West Woods. Ransom's troops are going to do just that. They're part of that stabilizing potential for the West Woods, and they very aggressively defend their line. It would be Ransom's brigade of North Carolinians that is the brigade that counterattacks into Greene's division when they move up into that salient around the Dunkirk Church. They're going to hold that for about 2 hours, but at around 12:30, it's become clear that Federals are in the woods, they're around Dunkirk Church, and it would be those North Carolina troops that begin counterattacking and eventually do force them out. Well, Robert Ransom's actually going to spend quite a bit of time in higher position. He will be bumped up to divisional command, and then he actually does take John Walker's position for quite some time, including there at Fredericksburg, but he is actually going to be attached to even higher command than that. He will be on the staff of Jubal Early by 1864. In fact, he is going to be in charge of all Confederate cavalry during Early's 1864 raid into Maryland that culminates at the very gates of Washington, D.C., and he would be with Early back into the beginning of the 1864 Valley Campaign. From there, he's actually going to be relieved of command due to sickness. He will spend the last few months of the war on detail, mostly doing court-martial duty. His performance in '64 is pretty solid, as the overall cavalry commander, but there is so many missions that the Confederate cavalry are attempting to do without some of their big names anymore. Of course, Stuart is dead by this point. A number of other Confederate cavalry commanders have either run out their ability or are no longer in this theater of the war. We would see good work being done for the Confederate cause by Ransom as an organizer, but he is not physically in the saddle leading charges and things of that nature. He has a lot of different commands going a lot of different directions.